John Carter was not just brilliant, he was a genius. As a young boy, he was the kind of student who always stood out in the classroom, his hand shooting up to answer questions before the teacher had even finished speaking. In high school, he was known for his ability to crack complex math problems, analyze literature with deep insight, and solve logic puzzles that baffled his peers. His teachers were amazed by his natural intelligence, and they all predicted he would go far in life. John believed them. He thought that his intellect alone would carry him to success, and he never doubted it for a moment. After high school, John attended a prestigious university on a full scholarship, where he studied computer science. Once again, his brilliance shone through. He graduated with top honors, securing a job at a renowned tech company almost immediately. The world seemed to be at his feet. He was young, smart, and had a promising career ahead of him. But despite all his accolades and potential, John made one critical mistake that would cost him dearly: he never took the time to learn about money. Money had always been something John thought would come easily. With his intellect, he assumed that financial success would naturally follow. He wasn't concerned with budgeting, saving, or investing. His income grew as he climbed the corporate ladder, and so did his spending. John didn't think about the long-term consequences of his choices. He was more focused on the immediate pleasures that came with his growing paycheck. He bought the latest gadgets, drove a luxury car, and lived in an upscale apartment in the city. John's first real financial misstep came when he was in his late 20s. He had just received a significant promotion at work and was feeling more invincible than ever. With his new salary, he thought he could finally afford the lifestyle he had always dreamed of. He bought a brand new sports car, the one he had been eyeing for months. The car was sleek, fast, and expensive, a symbol of his success. But the car was also financed, and John hadn't thought through the long-term costs. He was so caught up in the excitement of the moment that he didn't realize how much that car would actually cost him in the years to come. Around the same time, John started making other poor financial decisions. He moved into an even larger apartment, one that stretched his budget even further. He dined out constantly, frequented exclusive clubs, and spent money without considering how it would affect his future. John believed that as long as his career kept progressing, money would never be an issue. He was so focused on the present that he didn't think about the future. This mindset would come back to haunt him in ways he couldn't imagine. As John's career continued to soar, so did his debt. By the time he reached his mid-30s, he was living paycheck to paycheck. The luxury car, the expensive apartment, the designer clothes, none of it brought him lasting happiness. Instead, it added to his stress. His credit card debt had skyrocketed, and despite his high income, he had little to show for it. He had no savings, no investments, and certainly no plan for his financial future. At the same time, his company had started to undergo changes. New management came in, and John's once promising career began to stagnate. He wasn't getting the promotions he had expected, and he began to feel invisible in the workplace. The next decade was a blur of missed opportunities and mounting stress. John continued to work hard, but his financial situation only worsened. He tried to keep up with his peers by maintaining the same lavish lifestyle, but it became increasingly difficult. He took on more debt to finance his lifestyle, believing that eventually, his career would get back on track and all of this would pay off. But it didn't. By the time John was 45, he was buried in debt. His credit cards were maxed out, and his mortgage was a constant source of anxiety. He had borrowed money from friends and family, but nothing seemed to help. His income had plateaued, and the financial freedom he had once envisioned was slipping further away. It was during this period of personal and financial turmoil that John had his first real wake-up call. One afternoon, he ran into Steve, an old colleague from his university days. Steve was a few years older than John, but he looked incredibly different. While John was weighed down by stress, Steve appeared calm and at ease. He had a smile on his face, and when John asked how he was doing, Steve replied, "I'm retired." At first, John thought Steve was joking. How could someone his age be retired? But Steve wasn't joking. He explained that he had been planning for retirement since his 20s, investing consistently, and making wise financial decisions over the years. While John had been busy spending and living for the moment, Steve had been building a secure financial future. Steve's story hit John like a ton of bricks. For the first time, he realized that it wasn't just about working hard. It was about being smart with money. That evening, John sat down with a glass of whiskey and began to reflect on his life. His brilliant career, his promising future, all of it had been wasted because he had never bothered to learn the basics of personal finance. He had been reckless with money, and now, at the age of 45, he was paying the price. He had little to show for his years of hard work and talent, and the future was uncertain. But something inside John clicked that night. He realized that while it might be too late to undo his past mistakes, it wasn't too late to change. He could still turn things around. The next day, John took the first step toward financial redemption. He went online and ordered a few books on personal finance. He started listening to podcasts and reading blogs. He devoured information on budgeting, saving, and investing. It was a steep learning curve, but John was determined to change his ways. He started with his debts. John made a budget and committed to paying off his credit cards and loans, one by one. He didn't have a lot of money to spare, but he was willing to sacrifice his lifestyle to get back on track. He sold his luxury car and bought a more affordable used vehicle. He moved into a smaller apartment and started cooking at home instead of dining out. These changes were hard at first, but John knew they were necessary. As John worked to pay down his debts, he also started learning about investing. He opened a retirement account and began putting away a small portion of his income each month. He started investing in stocks, focusing on long-term growth rather than quick gains. He made some mistakes along the way, but he learned from each one. Slowly but surely, his financial situation started to improve. He paid off his debts, started building an emergency fund, and watched his investments grow over time. By the time John was in his early 50s, he had made significant progress. He had paid off almost all his debt and had built a modest savings and investment portfolio. But it wasn't enough. John knew that time was not on his side, and he needed to make the most of the years ahead. He ramped up his efforts, taking on additional freelance work to boost his income. He invested more aggressively, taking calculated risks with a long-term view. Slowly, his financial picture started to shift. At age 60, John was finally in a place he had never imagined. He had built a solid foundation for his retirement, and his investments were growing steadily. His debts were completely gone, and he had enough money and savings to live comfortably for the rest of his life. More than that, John had peace of mind. He no longer felt the weight of financial stress bearing down on him. Looking back, John knew that his greatest lesson wasn't just about learning how to make money, it was about learning how to manage it. It wasn't enough to be smart or hardworking, he had to be disciplined, patient, and intentional with his decisions. He realized that while the path to financial freedom wasn't easy, it was achievable for anyone willing to put in the effort. John's story is a reminder that no matter how brilliant you are, wealth is not guaranteed unless you make the right choices. It is never too late to take control of your financial future, no matter your age or circumstances. John's journey proves that with perseverance, hard work, and a willingness to learn, anyone can transform their life, one decision at a time.